Hi guys, welcome back to Christy's Book Corner. We are finally going to finish our book called Finding Jacob Wetterling by Robert M. Dudley. We are on the last chapter, chapter 12. And this chapter is called Closure. So this is when I think he confesses. So let's read, shall we? 12. Chapter 12. Closure. I told Jacob to turn around. I had to go to the bathroom. He didn't know what I was doing. Danny Heinrich during his courtroom confession. Oh, I read something about this. I read this transcript the other day. So some of this is going to seem familiar to me. Sometime on the evening of October 22nd, 1989, Danny Heinrich left his apartment at 121 Ashbourne Avenue in Painesville, Minnesota. He climbed into his car and headed out of the town. He drove northwest-east on Old Highway 23. It had been unseasonably warm that Sunday, so it was a bit unusual that he had been with him a long dark-colored puffy coat. He probably didn't give much thought to that. He just knew that he had to get out of town that night. As Heinrich drove out of Painesville, he passed the 400-acre farm that belonged to Arthur Voss. The farm was on the left side of the road. Sprawled out along was what was known as the Pond Road. The farm and the surrounding area were covered with a disorganized array of heavy vegetation. Jagged tree lines, water, and tall prairie grass. Heinrich knew this area well, for it was the place just north of town along the Crow River that he had often gone to hang out and party with his friends. He probably didn't plan for it at all that moment, but he would be returning to that farm again that night. It was October 22nd, 1989. Heinrich had just lost his job at Finger Hut in St. Cloud 2 weeks earlier. He had lost his previous car to a dark blue four-door 1987 Mercury Topaz to repossession in March during the summer of 1989. His mother, Corinne, had remarried. His grandmother died. It had been a stressful year. He had to get out of Painesville for the night. Danny Heinrich was on a mission that night, a mission that he didn't care attempt to accomplish in Painesville. The small city had experienced a period of sexual assaults and attempted assaults dating back 3 years to 1986. The assaults had been well publicized in the Painesville press, and the Painesville police had been actively investigating those cases. Danny knew that he was suspected of involvement in those assaults, and for that very reason he knew it would be foolish of him to complete night's mission in town. The long, dark, puffy coat wasn't the only unusual item that Danny Heinrich had with him in the car on the night of October 22nd, 1989. His evil-minded mission compelled him to bring along a flashlight, a mask, a gun, and a pair of silver handcuffs. As he continued to drive northeast on Highway 23, the road pulled him through the towns of Richmond and Cold Spring. Danny Heinrich knew those towns as well, as he had driven through them daily on his way to and from his job at Finger Hut. But he wouldn't dare complete his mission that night in those places either. His blue-colored 1982 Ford EXP looked too much like his previous car, the blue 1987 Mercury Topaz, that he had been driving in Cold Spring on the night of January 13th, 1989. That was the car Danny Heinrich owned when he adopted 12-year-old Jared and drove him to a secluded area near Richmond. There he assaulted the boy before returning him to the cold winter night on the outskirts of Cold Spring. Danny kept the boy's pants and underwear as a souvenir. Why would you do that, you dumb? Immediately following Jared's abduction, the local newspapers in Cold Spring, St. Cloud, and Painesville carried articles describing in great detail the car that his abductor had been driving and the man who had been driving it. The article included a sketch of the kidnapper, and it looked very much like Heinrich. Within 3 days of Jared's abduction, Stearns County Detective Doug Pierce was given a tip by a fellow Stearns County deputy that Danny Heinrich should be considered a suspect in Jared's case. Indeed, Detective Pierce followed up on the lead. Pierce and another investigator went to Heinrich's place of employment, Master Mark Industries in Painesville. They noted that Heinrich's car looked very much like that car that Jared had described. They showed Jared a picture of Heinrich, and he indicated that his kidnapper looked like the man in the picture. But they didn't talk to Heinrich about the crime. No one interviewed him or put him in a lineup. Danny Heinrich had gotten away with abducting and assaulting a 12-year-old boy. As Heinrich pulled into Cold Spring, he likely turned left onto Stearns County Highway 2, the shortest route to St. Joseph. Highway 2 passed near Kramer Lake, where a 9-year-old boy, Andrew, had nearly been abducted just 3 months earlier. In that case, a man who fit Danny Heinrich's general description, driving a tan-colored van, had asked Andrew his age before trying to force him into the van. Andrew was lucky enough to get away. There were other incidences in Kramer Lake area that summer, involving a tan-colored van and a man fitting Danny Heinrich's description. Jared's kidnapping case was just 6 months past when someone tried to abduct Andrew, but apparently that case was not fresh enough in mind to persuade the interest of Stearns County investigators. There was no mention made of Andrew's case in the media, and no warning issued to Cold Springs or St. Joseph police. Just about the time that Heinrich was driving into the small, peaceful town of St. Joseph on Highway 75, Jacob Wetterling, Aaron Larson, and Trevor Wetterling were setting out from the Wetterling home for an innocent ride to the Tom Thumb store to rent a movie. Heinrich was a stranger on a mission of evil, and 3 little boys were on a mission of innocence. In a matter of minutes, those 2 missions would come to a horrific intersection, a fateful and devastating crossing of 2 worlds. It was about 9 p.m. when Heinrich turned off of Highway 75 in St. Joseph and headed south on 91st Avenue. He was driving his blue-colored 1982 Ford EXB. It was a small, dark-colored car with headlights close together. Oh my God! Somewhere along that dark, dead-end road, he met a group of 3 young boys that were riding into town on a pair of bikes and a scooter. Knowing that the boys would likely be returned the same way, Heinrich turned left and onto a sandy gravel driveway. He followed the driveway about 30 meters up a gentle hill, and then turned to the left as the driver made a gradual 90-degree turn to the north, and finally down a gentle hill to a cluster of farmhouse buildings. When he got to the end of the driveway, by the house, he made a 100-degree turn to the left and drove back out the driveway toward the road. Dan Razor was home alone in the farmhouse, working on organizing his record collection. Smokey, the family dog, began barking and alerting him to something going on outside. When Razor looked out his upstairs bedroom window, he saw a small, dark car, perhaps blue, turning around in his driveway. Smokey stopped barking. Razor went back to his record collection. Danny Heinrich parked his car on the sandy gravel driveway about 75 yards short of 91st Avenue. He lay there and anticipating that the three boys would be biking back soon. From his right-hand side, he waited for about 20 minutes and then saw the glimmer of light coming from the flashlight that Trevor Wetterling was carrying. Heinrich put on a pair of gloves and then a mask. He grabbed the flashlight and his gun, and then walked out to the end of the driveway to confront the three boys. Jacob Wetterling, Aaron Larson, and Trevor Wetterling were riding back home with a video rental, The Naked Gun. They approached the portion of the road where Aaron Larson had heard the rustling in the grass a few minutes before, but now Aaron heard the shuffle of feet against the gravel driveway instead, and a strange man in black stepped out from the dark. "Stop! I have a gun!" shouted the strange man. The boys stopped immediately, but both Trevor and Aaron initially thought it was a joke. Trevor pointed his flashlight at the man, and that's when the boys saw that the man had a gun and was wearing a mask. They knew that this was no joke, that the man was serious. They offered to give him the videotape. "No, don't do that," Heinrich said, ordering Trevor to shut off the flashlight. Heinrich knocked the videotape to the ground and ordered the boys to put their bikes in the ditch. He told them to lie down on the ground. They complied. He asked them their ages. Aaron Larson was 11. Trevor Wetterling said he was 10, and Jacob Wetterling was 11. Within that, the man ordered Trevor to run off into the woods to the west. "Don't look back, or I'll shoot," he warned. Trevor did as he was told. Then Heinrich groped Aaron and Jacob by placing his hand over his clothes, grasping his genitals, and he told Aaron to run to the woods and repeat the same warning he had given to Trevor. Aaron did as he was told. Heinrich then grabbed Jacob Wetterling by the shoulder and led him up the Razor driveway to his car. They approached the car on the passenger side. With the car facing 91st Avenue, the abductor opened the car door, put Jacob's hands behind his back, and secured them with a silver pair of handcuffs. "What did I do wrong?" Jacob asked of his abductor. Heinrich shoved Jacob into the passenger seat of his car, and stepping into the car against his will, Jacob Wetterling left a clear footprint in the sand. Perpendicular to the tire prints left by his abductor's car, the shoe print was the last anyone else would see of Jacob Wetterling for the next 27 years. After searching Jacob in the car, Heinrich removed his mask, got back into the driver's seat, and drove up the Razor driveway. He turned right onto 91st Avenue and followed it about a mile north to Highway 75. As he turned left on Highway 75, his handheld Regency 50 channel scanner quickly filed in the air with the sounds of police activity. The other two boys had called for help, and the SCSO and St. Joseph police were on their way to the abduction scene. Heinrich ordered Jacob to lean forward in his seat and to put his head down, out of view of the windows, as they drove through town. Once they were out of the town of St. Joseph, Heinrich told Jacob he could sit back up. He continued to drive northwest, merging onto Interstate Highway 94 west near Collegeville. Within 15 minutes of kidnapping Jacob Wetterling, Heinrich was 15 miles away in Albany, Minnesota. There he exited the interstate and headed south on Highway 10 to Rusco. Another 15 miles away at Rusco, Heinrich turned right and headed back toward Painesville. Oh, we're almost done, yay! On Highway 23, about a mile north of Painesville, Heinrich made a right-hand turn onto the pond road by the Voss farm. He proceeded a little ways to the west and then turned left into a approached entrance to a field. Heinrich drove his car up close to a grove of trees. He parked the car, shut off his lights, and got out. He let Jacob out of the passenger side door and removed his handcuffs. Then he led Jacob over to the line of trees and ordered him to remove his clothing. Jacob did as his abductor ordered. Danny Heinrich has removed his clothing and assaulted Jacob for 20 to 30 minutes. I'm cold, Jacob said, fighting through tears. Okay, you can get dressed, Heinrich told Jacob. Jacob put his clothes back on, and so did his abductor. Heinrich began to lead Jacob back toward the car. Are you taking me home? Jacob asked his abductor. I can't take you all the way home, Heinrich explained. You live a town or so away. With that, Jacob started to cry. Don't cry, the man said. They were almost back to the car when an awful fate intervened. A police cruiser went speeding out of Painesville toward the northeast, its emergency lights flashing, but its siren silent. Heinrich got scared and he panicked. The unseasonal warm day suddenly turned very cold. He pulled the silver-colored .38 caliber Smith and Wesson revolver out of his pocket and loaded 2 bullets into the chamber. Then Heinrich told Jacob to turn around so he could go to the bathroom. Jacob did what he was told. With Jacob Wetterling facing the way away from him, Heinrich raised the gun to the back of Jacob's head and looked away. He pulled the trigger. Click. Nothing. The first bullet in the chamber had not lined up with the hammer. Danny Heinrich pulled the trigger a second time. This time, the gun went off. But then, when Danny looked back again, he saw that Jacob was still standing. He pulled the trigger a third time. Oh, it's a third time. And then, in that second bullet sent Jacob to the ground. He was dead. Oh, I'm surprised I'm not crying. Heinrich got back into his car and drove back to his apartment in Painesville. He waited in his apartment for about 2 hours, then decided to go back to bury Jacob. He grabbed a collapsible shovel and started walking along Ashbourne Avenue, then up along Highway 23. It was just past midnight when he returned to Jacob's body. He dragged Jacob about 100 yards to the northeast and tried in vain to dig a hole with his small shovel, but the rocky soil was too difficult to penetrate. Danny remembered that there was a construction company right down the road, so he walked over there to look for a bigger shovel. Instead, he climbed into a bobcat skid loader, found the keys, and drove it to Jacob's body. The lights were kept turning off as he drove it down the Pond Road, but he turned them on for a moment to find Jacob's body. He dug a grave with the bucket of the skid loader, then dragged Jacob's body into the grave and covered him with dirt. Jacob was still wearing the red jacket, the blue sweatpants, and the reflective vest that he had put on before biking into St. Joseph just a few hours earlier. Heinrich returned the bobcat skid loader to where he had found it, and then walked back to Jacob's burial site. He camouflaged the grave with grass and brush, and then noticed that Jacob's Nike tennis shoes had fallen off his feet. He grabbed the shoes and threw them into a ravine. As he walked back to his apartment, Jacob Wetterling's killer had buried him in a location that was familiar, a place where he felt comfortable. About 1 year later, Heinrich returned to Jacob's grave. He brought with him a garbage bag and a military entrenching tool once again. He walked to the site instead of driving. When arriving, he noticed that Jacob's red jacket was sticking out of the ground, and there was Jacob's skull and other bones lying there on the ground, too. He picked up all the bones in Jacob's jacket and put them into the garbage bag. He carried the bag across the road and dug a new 2-foot-deep grave with an entrenching tool. He removed Jacob's jacket from the bag and set it aside. Then he took the bones and put them into the hole, covering them with Jacob's jacket. He covered the grave He covered the grave with the dirt. The next time Heinrich visited Jacob's grave was Wednesday, August 31st, 2016. This time he was wearing a pair of handcuffs as he led authorities to the location where he had buried Jacob Wetterling. Authorities found the grave almost immediately as Heinrich was able to pinpoint the location to within a few feet. They found Jacob's red jacket by the St. Cloud hockey, but the St. Cloud hockey lettering had decomposed over time. They found bones. Laboratory testing performed the following day, revealing that the bones were animal bones. Long-sought answers would have to wait one more day. Investigators returned to the grave on Friday, September 2nd, 2016. They explained that the search area and found more bones and a skull. Dental records confirmed that the skull was Jacob Wetterling's. On Saturday, authorities would announce that they had confirmed the identity of the remains. After nearly 27 years, the world finally knew what had become of Jacob Wetterling, an 11-year-old whose heartbreaking story made the world a safer place for children. Aww, okay, that's good. Okay, I didn't cry. I almost did. That's it for this book. Next book won't be as intense. It's a fiction book, and there's an actual movie about it. It's called Inkheart by Cornelia Funk. And, it was the book that I read with my inspiration channel, Hannah's Hollows. So I'm going to do my own Inkheart playlist as well. I'm going to read that book starting October 1st. And if you have any book suggestions before October 1st, you can let me know. Facebook me on our Facebook page, Christy's Book Corner, and let me know what book. I'm going to have this. Let me know the book you want me to read, and if I have it, I will let you know, and we'll go from there. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, guys. I love the growth that my YouTube channel has come, and it's been a month. I started this on the 10th of August, and now it's like almost the 10th of September, and I'm really amazed that it's got 71 views in over a month. And I just gotta thank you guys for supporting me. I really enjoy reading, and I hope you enjoy reading along with me. But if you like the video so far, pretty much you guys have, because you wouldn't be viewing them. Pop a like and comment. Do whatever you need to do to get my name out there. I'm an author, as you know, and hoping to write something soon. Another book, maybe. Actually, I have. It's called Love at a Hotel. It's not based in New York, like Connecticut, but it's based in Ottawa and Scarborough, Ontario, like near the top of Toronto. I haven't published that either yet, but if you want, I could read my draft of it if you want. It's up to you guys. Please subscribe. I'm always looking for new subscribers to share my love of reading. And if you want to be notified of when I upload a video, which is daily, hit the notification bell, and I will see you later. Dare to dream, guys.